Hi, this is Councilwoman Viviana Russell, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everyone who participated in the Newcastle Brownfield Opportunity Area meetings. A thank you to all of our committee members, as well as the public for their participation, which has helped us move the continued revitalization of the Newcastle community onward. We're providing you with a brief project overview, the community's goals and objectives, and current activities, as well as next steps. I would like to add that during our town board meeting on December 16, 2021, we approved the capital plan, which includes funding for a skate park at Martin Bunkie Reed Park, as a result of your input. As always, your continued participation is necessary and vital for the success of our community. I'd like to introduce to you Neil Stone from our planning department, who will go through the details of this presentation, highlighting our successes throughout the years and what's to come. Thank you.
Hi, the following is a presentation that summarizes the work that has been done in the hamlet of Newcastle over the past 24 months with a little bit of background beforehand that outlines the current project that is being funded by the United States Environmental Protection Agency, a grant given to the town of North Hempstead to look at brownfields under the Brownfields program, both at the federal and the state level. So our first slide is the project overview that basically summarizes that this was an assessment, actually two assessment grants totaling $300,000 in federal funding that are focused on basically taking a look at sites that are underutilized and have the potential for a higher, better use to be cleaned up and redeveloped. The grants, the goals and objectives under the granting program, the town's commitment to the Environmental Protection Agency is to revitalize these undeveloped and underutilized properties, leverage federal and state funding with other investment resources, create new housing opportunities, improve public health and safety and facilities, and foster community beautification and connectivity. So the town consistently uses EPA grant funding to review existing redevelopment strategies, engage the community in projects, work with the town's community development agency and housing authority to advance these community goals, select and prioritize parcels for future attention, and conduct environmental and feasibility studies as well as cleanup and redevelopment on the parcels that are being analyzed. This all began with a process back in 2002 where groundwork was laid with an initial EPA pilot grant that provided the funding for the town and partner organizations of the town to develop and create a vision plan. And this was done with a number of charrettes, numerous focus groups, and meetings with stakeholders in the neighborhood back in 2002. And out of that, one of the main priorities was to create mixed-use housing, and there were some 10 to 12 new residential buildings that were built along Prospect Avenue and Union Avenue from 2003 onwards into the 2010 range. Also part of the vision plan was the desire of the community to have Prospect Avenue rebuilt to calm the traffic for speeding vehicles that would go barreling down the 1.3 mile stretch, and to make it a lot safer and have crossing points, crosswalks, lamp poles that had some character, a few additional traffic lights, and medians. Now, this was all done in about 2009 when the town received money under President Obama's American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Also, as a result of the vision plan, one of the needs that the community identified was that they wanted a community center space. And so the town worked closely with the community in developing a building program that would be energy efficient, that would contain many of the functions that that were recommended by residents as to what they wanted in a community center. And after about 3 years of planning, the Yes We Can Center came to fruition down near Broadway and Garden and Railway Streets, and continues to function to this day. Is a beautiful United States Green Building Council LEED Platinum certified building, which means that it is top of the line in terms of energy efficiency. And then in 2012, the town received a New York State Department of State Brownfields Opportunity Area grant, which allowed the planning department with the Newcastle Steering Committee, a number of community leaders, and the Councilwoman Russell to bring people together for another discussion and revisiting the priorities that were developed back in 2002 in the vision plan. And so some of the themes, they continued on. Other things that popped up were new and were sort of added to the list. But in summary on this slide, you can see from the bullets that those were priorities that were accentuated again in 2012. Also, there was a planning study that was done as part of that state grant. The BOA grant allowed the town and the planning department to get a better handle on which sites were out there in Newcastle that either had zombie homes or potential contamination. Some were in the industrial area, and on this slide you can see they're in violet or purple. There were a number of additional sites that were identified along Prospect Avenue and some throughout the residential area. In all told, there were over 175 properties that became a universe of known and potential brownfield sites that we still use to try and improve today. And so from that universe of sites and the 2012 study, there were strategic sites that were identified, all told, I think about 10 of them. And they became target areas for redevelopment and reinvestment. And just to reiterate that these studies do turn into something very real, you can see from the development at the Homestead, which is the former Grand Street School site, that we now have 76 new senior independent living townhouse style residences. Another strategic site was down at the east end of Prospect Avenue and is now Cathedral Place, which has 20 new apartment residences, and that was completely redeveloped as part of the study in 2012. Down near Somer Place and Rose Place, at the west end of Prospect Avenue, 11 new row house units were built mid-block at Somer Place, and both of those sites on either side of the street were deemed another strategic site from 2012, and so this was also sort of bearing fruit from the 2012 initiative. The Urban Avenue grade crossing was folded in as a strategic site identified in 2012, long before the Long Island Railroad came to the table to speak with the town about making improvements to the best of the ability of the funding, and to create a safer pedestrian and vehicle and railroad crossing at Urban Avenue. Then, of course, there were the parklets and improvements to the little parks along Prospect Avenue. The kiosk was revamped and now contains a business directory and a kiosk of events as well. That was part of the 2012 ask. The Swam Street Park was developed out of the 2012 study as well. A small little parklet that's at Swam and Prospect Avenue on the northwest corner. I should also say that the Swam Street Park was partially funded through Nassau County funding as well. And so we're on the slide that is Gateway Place. And this was enhanced through an arts initiative where we had students from Westbury High School, as well as a local Long Island artist that put together the mosaic tile wall, and also did some mural enhancements around Gateway Place. And so that brings us to today, where we have these assessment grants. And the reason for the backgrounder that I've illustrated on all these previous slides is to show that our efforts are not in vain when we come to the table and we make known things that we want to see enhanced in our community. As we did in 2012, we made enhancements on many of the strategic sites that were identified that I've already shown pictures of. And so what we started doing under the assessment grant program with the EPA 24 months ago was we went back to the universe of known and potential brownfield sites, and we honed in on 11 of 24 from those 175 plus. And we took the first 11 to the community through a series of public meetings, presentations, and surveys that we conducted over the course of 2021 with the help of our steering committee, CDA members, town staff, Councilwoman Russell, and the support of Supervisor Bosworth. And so that was a fairly extensive process. It guided the discussion about what residents still would like to see in Newcastle, and is going to help the town planning department, the CDA, move forward with trying to test some of those ideas and see what we can best go to work on at various locations throughout Newcastle. It has the 11 new sites for assessment. There's a number of them that are along Prospect Avenue, 2 of them that are against the Wantagh along Catherine Street, 1 lone site in the industrial area, and 2 that are down near Union on the west side of the hamlet. And so all of those were put on the table for discussion during the public outreach meetings, focus groups, and survey. So as part of the community-wide assessments, we asked the stakeholders what types of uses and activities and things that they would like to see in the neighborhood. And so when everything was tabulated and all the material came in no particular order except for the first 3 or 4, these were the uses that were identified out of the public input process. There was an overwhelming desire for more new residential of various types, owner or rental housing, apartment or single family, all with some affordable component. There was an affinity to, wherever possible, do mixed use with residential and commercial, especially along corridors like Prospect Avenue. A daytime childcare center was something that came up fairly consistently in the feedback, and more recreation and community meeting spaces. Those definitely were 4 things that resonated that came out of the input process. Other uses that were mentioned either individually or by 3, 4, 5 other responses included pet care, a bank, a police satellite station, technical skills training facility, counseling center, a yoga center, health food store, a donut/coffee/ice cream shop, public plaza, and rental spaces for special events. And as part of the survey and focus group discussions, we asked folks where priority sites would be for them to see actionable movement on your redevelopment and cleanup from the sites that were provided, and also we factor in and consider some of the sites that are out there that the CDA may be able to act on in the short term as well. And so 6 of the sites are listed here, 4 of which are actionable probably in the shorter term, meaning 1 to 3 years. Those include Site 1, Site 7, let me say 740 and 746 Prospect, which are adjacent to each other. Catherine Street, the parcel at the end of the dead end on Catherine. The American Legion property, which is between Hopper and Swam on the north site that we called Site 3 on the map. And there's a site up on Brush Hollow Road near the Highway Yard, which is the old Nassau County Vehicle Yard for I believe the police, and that's Site 11. And 2 other sites on Sheridan Street within a block of each other, where there are 2 houses on sites that would be excellent for redevelopment. And so out of the public input sessions that we held over the summer, there were some direct rollouts and things that we listened to you, the residents and community members, and were able to do with relative ease and fairly quickly. And 2 of those are the new skate park that is going to be undertaken at Bunkie Reed Park, and that should be underway by springtime. And then you've noticed, if you've driven up and down Prospect Avenue over the past month, that we have beautiful brand new street banners all along both sides of Prospect Avenue that were designed and used artwork from the Westbury High School art students a few years ago. And so our North Hempstead Community Development Agency was basically able to turn this into a reality over the past month, and they look beautiful up there. And so as I wrap up this brief presentation, I'm highlighting what we're going to be doing in over the next few months in the next steps. And we have a grant from the New York State Department of State, again through the Brownfields program, that our CDA is going to administer, and it's an economic analysis market study grant. And so the purpose of this is, you can read the 5 points that I have on the blue slide here that talks about the market study. But essentially, the market study is designed to test the ideas that came out of the public input process. And what we do in the market analysis is we look at whether, if the household buying power, the market radius of the neighborhood has similar uses that already exist, would the neighborhood be able to support a second facility of similar use? Would the business be able to make a go of it and become a gainful business that has staying power, lasting power over time? Would the zoning code provide relative ease for this new business or function to come in to the neighborhood, or would we have to make changes to allow these things to be developed in Newcastle? And so we're hoping that we will be able to do that over the coming 4 to 6 months. And then we have the remaining funding from the assessment grants that we are going to be performing environmental analysis on some of the priority sites that we can hopefully do something with in the short term. And next slide, please. My final slide in this presentation is one of encouragement and hope, because we received another EPA multi-purpose grant just this past fall, and that's for just shy of another $1 million for us to continue all of the work that we have committed to doing and keep moving forward, identifying sites and taking the uses that you, the community members and stakeholders, have already identified. And so we encourage anyone who's out there that's looking at this presentation, who wants to get involved or stay involved, to reach out to the planning department, contact town hall, stay in the loop with the community development agency or Newcastle steering committee members, call the town 311 and find out what's going on. And we are hoping that we are going to put together a regular quarterly newsletter as well. So make sure that your name gets on the email list so that you get that every quarter and can see what's going on in the community in terms of site redevelopment under the Brownfields program, because your input is valued tremendously. And as you can see from this presentation, the input that we receive from the community members and people like you help us and guide us in making the decisions to accomplish the things that you would like in Newcastle. And that concludes my presentation. Please contact any of the locations and sources that I mentioned if you'd like more information. Thank you very much.